Good evening and a warm welcome to the midweek edition of the State of Business. I'm Nishani Figuera. As usual, headlines first. EU clears air on GSP Plus conditions. And Prime Minister says government will announce more reforms soon. Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe says the government is planning to develop Sri Lanka to become a crucial hub in South Asia. Addressing a media conference on the sidelines of the 47th World Economic Forum in Davos, Switzerland, the Prime Minister said foreign investors will be invited to invest in strategic investment zones. Ministers Malik Samaravikrama, Ravi Karunanayake and Harin Fernando also joined the media conference.
Sri Lanka government is now also undertaking the structural reforms which will be announced in February and March, which will make it easier to do business in Sri Lanka. For new tax incentives, the macroeconomic stabilization program with the IMF has been agreed to, and in that we are looking on infrastructure development for what's called the Southwest Corridor, a development area starting in Kandy, going through Colombo and ending up in Hambantota. By end of 2017, the plan will be in place and will be operational. The laws will be in place, and the strategy that we mapped out last year will come into play, and Sri Lanka will make its own contribution to further integration of trade in the Asian sector as far as we are concerned, especially in the Indian Ocean and the South Asian sector.
We have made good progress with our negotiations with China, Singapore and India. We hope to finalize these trade agreements before June this year, which will result in us having a market access of over 2.5 billion people. The problem we have had is that our exports have been to the traditional markets, USA, UK, a few countries in Europe and India. But we need to now diversify the markets as well as diversify the products. So we are doing that together with the ITC and with some assistance from World Economic Forum as well.
We've looked at two areas. One is how we can lure the foreign direct investments to come into Sri Lanka and use the existing manufacturers who are the best of ambassadors to improve and increase their existing investments in the country. So it's a two-pronged attack which has been done. It's a product diversification and market diversification which will help us to increase the exports, which dramatically reduced over the last 10 years. So the perilous economy that we inherited when the new government came in has somewhat been brought under control, owing to strict policies that our Prime Minister has wanted us to adhere. And today we are on a right course where the fiscal consolidation is coming in. We are ensuring financial discipline is coming in and ensuring that the capital investment goes in for revenues of tomorrow. So I guess overall, 2017 is a very important one, but it's a rolling year for the next 3 years as well.
The European Union reiterates that the implementation of 27 international conventions is the only criteria for Sri Lanka to obtain GSP+. The EU, issuing a statement, said that Sri Lanka is already a signatory to those 27 international conventions, and Sri Lanka's application to rejoin the GSP Plus is assessed based on that. These conventions are related to international human rights, labour rights, environmental standards and good governance. Benefiting from GSP Plus requires the government to undertake further progress in implementing the conventions and to cooperate with the EU to monitor, implement and address shortcomings, the statement added. The EU is Sri Lanka's biggest export market, accounting for nearly one-third of Sri Lanka's global exports. In 2015, total bilateral trade between Sri Lanka and the EU amounted to 4.7 billion euros. In more news tonight, the government has appointed an interministerial committee to look into the preparation of the National Human Rights Action Plan 2017-2021. The Interministerial Committee will be co-chaired by the Ministers of Foreign Affairs, Skills Development and Vocational Training, Justice and Development Strategies and International Trade. Cabinet spokesperson Minister Dr. Rajat Senaratne said that the draft of the National Human Rights Action Plan was approved by the Cabinet. The minister added that the EU has not presented 58 conditions seeking government's commitment to renew the GSP+.
ඉතින් 58 ඉදිරිපත් කරනකො ඒගොල්ලෝ දන්නවනේ 58. 58ක් කියන්නේ ඉලක්කම නෙවෙයිනේ යෝජනානේ. අපි දැක්කනේ. මොනවාක්වත් එහෙම යෝජනාවක් නැහැ මේකේ තියෙන්නේ. මේකේ තියෙන ප්‍රධාන කරුණු තුන මොකද්ද? මේකේ තියෙන ප්‍රධාන කරුණු තුන තමයි මානව හිමිකම් සුරක්ෂිත කිරීම. ඕකට විරුද්ධද කවුරුවක්වත්? දෙක යහපාලනයේ සුරක්ෂිත කිරීම. යහපාලනයට විරුද්ධද? නැහැ. එතකොට තුන තිරසාර සංවර්ධනය. ඒකට විරුද්ධද කවුරුවක්වත්? මෙන්න මේ තුන යටතේ තමයි යෝජනා තියෙන්නේ. මේ හියුමන් රයිට්ස් කියන්නේ. ගියාණ්ඩුව ඕක කරන්න බෑ. මොකද ඒගොල්ලෝ මානව හිමිකම් සුරක්ෂිත කිරීමට විරුද්ධයි ඒගොල්ලෝ. පැහැදිලිව. ඒගොල්ලෝ කිව්වා ඒක අපේ අයිතියක්. ඒක ලෝකයේ අයිතියක් නෙවෙයි. මේවා අනිත් එක මේකේ කොහෙවත් නැහැ. මේ යෝජනාවලිය දුන්නයි කියමුකෝ. දුන්නත් මේවා කවදා හරි අනපනත් ගෙනල්ලා ඉම්ප්ලිමන්ට් වෙනකන් නීතියක් නෙවෙයි.
State of Business will return with more news after this short break. To stay with us. Welcome back. You're watching the State of Business. Minister Lakshman Kiriyala expressed views on the process to compile a new constitution at a media conference in Colombo today.
දැනට ව්‍යවස්ථා සාකච්ඡා කරන මෙහෙයුම් කමිටුවෙන් එක වගන්තියක්වත් තාම හදලා නැහැ. සමහරු අර වගන්තිය තිබ්බා මේ වගන්තිය තිබ්බා කියලා ප්‍රකාශ කරනවක් නිකුත් කරලා තිබ්බා. මම කියන්න කැමතියි තාම එක වගන්තියක්වත් හදලා නැහැ. අපි පසුගිය මාස කිහිපය තුළ කෙරුවේ මෙහෙයුම් කමිටුව හරහා අපි වාර්තා 7ක් හදලා තියෙනවා. ඒ වාර්තාවල ඇතුළත් වෙන්නේ අපිට ඉදිරිපත් කරපු යෝජනා. අපිට ඉදිරිපත් කරපු විවිධ යෝජනා තමයි ඒ කොමිටි හතේ තියෙන්නේ. ඒව අවසන් යෝජනා නෙවෙයි. අද විශාල පිළිගැනීමක් තියෙනවා අලුත් ව්‍යවස්ථාවක් රට අවශ්‍යයි කියලා. අපේ රටට අලුත් ආරම්භයක් ඕන. අලුත් ආරම්භයක් ඇති කරගන්න පුළුවන් අලුත් ව්‍යවස්ථාවක් යටතේ.
Public Utilities Commission says plans are underway to introduce an installment-based payment system for domestic consumers who cannot afford to pay the new electricity connection charge. Damita Kumarasinghe, the Director General of the Public Utilities Commission of Sri Lanka, said this will ensure that any person is able to afford an electricity connection. Those who are eligible can get the new connection on a monthly installment basis, recovered over a period of not less than 24 months. The Divinaguma beneficiaries and households, pensioners, disabled soldiers and elderly persons over the age of 55 are eligible for this scheme. The PUSL said the relevant guidelines have been already communicated to the Ceylon Electricity Board and Lanka Electricity Company and are now in effect. Let's take a look at how the stocks performed today after this break. Welcome back to the show. Trading at the Colombo Stock Exchange ended on a mixed note today. The oil share price index dropped 1.51 points to close at 6,185.01, while the S&P SL 20 gained by 5.93 points to close the session at 3,497.27. High net worth and institutional investor participation was witnessed in Ceylon Bank, Non-Voting and First Capital Holdings. Mixed interest was observed in Melstra Corp Limited and Chevron Lubricants, whilst retail interest was noted in People's Leasing and Finance. Meanwhile, foreigners remained active, closing as net sellers, mainly due to foreign selling in First Capital Holdings and Chevron Lubricants. Turnover was 171.4 million rupees and 6.5 million shares were traded. Up next are the day's forex rates. And that wraps up the show for tonight. Do join us again tomorrow at the same time. Until then, thank you for watching. Have a pleasant evening.